Here with another video where I share my thoughts and opinions on someone or something going on in this wacky weird wrestling world. As you can tell by the title below, this one will be one where I share my thoughts and opinions on if Toronto should really host another WrestleMania. Kinda, in a way, good timing for this video considering a couple of days ago, WWE held Elimination Chamber at the Skydome where WrestleMania 6 and 18 were first, I think, wrestling event, or at least WWE event, held at the Skydome or Rogers Center, whatever it's called now, since WrestleMania 18 back in 2002, and it's on the road to WrestleMania as well. Would love to know your thoughts and opinions are on it. WrestleMania one day hosting, or Toronto hosting WrestleMania again. And for those who don't know, granted, I've never lived in or around Toronto, whether it's Toronto itself or the greater Toronto area, but I've lived in Southern Ontario for a vast majority of my life. And for a long while, I wanted a Mania to be held in Toronto because it's the closest big city to where I live. Kind of roughly makes sense and whatnot, but as I got older, and I don't, this is 100% me thing. Would it be cool for Toronto to host a WrestleMania? Yeah, but for myself personally, it would be cooler if Montreal or Vancouver held it. It would be perfect if Winnipeg or Ottawa did, but they're small markets in comparison to Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal, respectively. But when it comes to Toronto, everything that you kind of need for WWE, at least, would be there and whatnot. I haven't heard anything in regards to WrestleMania kind of deal, the venue that they would do there, because I've heard that they're not doing it after SmackDown. I could be wrong, but like Air Canada Centre, where whatever it's called now, Scotiabank Arena, where the Toronto Maple Leafs, Toronto Raptors play in Skydome, Rogers Centre, are not too far away, where WWE would do Raw, SmackDown, NXT, probably Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania itself, kind of deal, are not too far away. When it comes to the extra stuff WWE would do, hypothetically, like in Access, or I think it's called WWE World nowadays, they could have it where they did Access for SummerSlam 2019, the convention center. Again, couple of minutes, like 5-minute walk from, I think it was Air Canada Center, kind of deal. And they're, for non-wrestling fans, other stuff to do, whether it is well, maybe not Toronto Maple Leaf games, because when I say not a lot of people can afford it, it's like $200-300 for nosebleeds kind of deal. I don't follow the Raptors enough to know whether or not they would be playing in early to mid-April and whatnot. And when it comes to when it comes to WWE, for myself personally, granted, I don't really live near Toronto, but I still live in Ontario-ish kind of deal. But it would definitely be cool to go back. I'm relatively familiar with Toronto, but again, for myself personally, as a Canadian that wants to do non-wrestling stuff during a wrestling trip, there isn't really much for myself to do that I haven't already done, like CN Tower, Ripley's Aquarium, the art museum, I forget what it's called off the top of my head. That kind of stuff I personally either already done or don't really have interest in doing. But when it comes to the likelihood, hypothetically, if WWE ever came to Canada, with the, from what I've seen online, from like the fan aspect, stuff to do, all of that stuff through Elimination Chamber, it was I would say, reasonable success kind of deal. Easy for people to get around. Again, from what I've heard, easy to come in and out of the Skydome, all of that stuff. But then again, they had, I forget what the number was, but like 35,000 for Elimination Chamber. Probably gonna double it for easily for Mania and whatnot. But for myself personally, it would be one of those things where Toronto potentially hosting WrestleMania, it would be cool, but there's other places, whether it's in Canada or internationally, that I would rather see. Heck, London, England, who's half a world away for myself personally. I would much rather see a WrestleMania there than in Toronto for myself personally, and whatnot. But yeah, overall, should they host? Yeah, I would say so, but the Skydome, it's not as fancy as the other places that they've gone to for WrestleMania. Like the one in Vegas looks cool from what I've seen. New Orleans, in years past, they look cool. The one in Dallas looks cool. All of that stuff. From like a physical, what the venue looks like, looks cool. Skydome, not so much, even though there's granted wrestling history there. But yeah, overall, they should, but the likelihood of it happening, I'm not going to hold my breath because I would be long gone by the time that rolls around. Those are my thoughts and opinions. Would love to know what yours are down in the comments below on if Toronto should really host another WrestleMania. Would love to know down in the comments below. It would be greatly appreciated by yours truly. Treat yourself as well as possible, mentally, emotionally, and physically, because you deserve the absolute best.